All right, cool. I'll try this presentation mode thing.
The login works now. So.
All right. So I'm going to talk about the Google AJAX APIs. So we have two of them. Sometimes we call the Maps one an AJAX API as well. But the main ones I'm going to talk about the Feeds API and the Search API. So you know Google's mission is to organize, well you may not know this, but at Google we get it like drilled into our head every day. So our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. I haven't memorized it yet, but I'm working on it. So what is the information that Google has that people might actually want to use? Well, first of all, Google's a search engine. So people tend to like our search results. They're pretty good. I've actually done a completely non-biased comparison between Google and Yahoo and determined that I like Google's.
Oh my.
Can you edit that out? I determined that I like Google's better. No, seriously. And so we have like multiple searches, right? And even when you go to google.com, it actually searches a lot of different things at one time, right? So sometimes you get lucky, you get YouTube videos for your results, and you're like, sweet, I don't have to like read text anymore. So we have google.com, we have news.google.com, we have maps.google.com, which does local search, which is both locating an address and locating a business. We have blog search, and that if you want to see what's popular in blogs lately, what's going on with Britney Spears, that's what you use. And video.google.com indexes YouTube, but also a bunch of other video sites as well. So that's pretty useful. And then the other thing we have that people don't always think about is that Google Reader goes out and gets all these feeds. So if you guys haven't used Google Reader, that's how you subscribe to RSS feeds or Atom feeds. It's fantastic. I have 100 feeds in my Google Reader. Granted, I only read the celebrity gossip ones, but I keep the tech ones in there just to make myself feel smart. So Google Reader is really awesome, and it keeps you up to date on all these different blogs and news sites and whatnot. So Google Reader obviously doesn't go out and every single time another user wants to read the same RSS feed, they're not going to go out and go parse it again, right? So they're going to cache it a bit. So we have this whole backend that has all these cached RSS feeds. So that's another resource that we can make available to people, is the ability to get these feeds. Now the thing is that, so we used to have a SOAP search API. We've since deprecated it. There's some issues with it. So now the thing is that we figured, well, a lot of people just want to access these results via JavaScript, and that way we can make sure that, because whenever you offer an HTTP interface to something, you open yourself up to a lot of scraping and questionable use. And so in order to not deal with that, well, I don't know if this is motivation, I'm just guessing, it's easier to offer a JavaScript API stuff, because that satisfies a lot of users, and then you don't have to worry about questionable use, because people are generally going to be using it on a website and not from a cron job, right? Okay, so the AJAX Search API, as you can guess, it makes it easy to put a search box on your page and search any of those websites you just talked about, and news, maps, etc. And you can do it both of these APIs have kind of a raw layer, which is a lot more customizable, and then they have all these control layers. So if all you just want is a search control that's going to search usc.edu, that's going to be 2 lines of code. And that's going to put a search box on your site, and it's going to take care of doing the searches, creating all the search results, everything for you, right? The reason that we have these controls is that because it's a very, very common use case. So for both of these APIs, they're very common use cases. People always want to be able to search a certain site on their website, right? So you'll see that a lot of people actually, non-Google properties, use this to search their own site on their website. So, and then we have the AJAX Feeds API, right? So this makes it easy to use externally hosted RSS or Atom feeds on your websites with JavaScript. Now, before the AJAX Feeds API, you'd have to have a server-side proxy. Does anyone know why? Yeah?
Cross-site scripting, security disallowed it just so you couldn't have a bunch of band rats phone home.
So something like is cross-domain policy with XML HTTP requests. Yeah. So the problem is this, right? So we talked about, some of you were here on Monday or Tuesday, we talked about the XML HTTP request. This is something that you can use in JavaScript in order to get XML files on your own server. However, you can't use this to get XML files on a domain that's not your own server. So this makes it kind of difficult if you want to get XML files from, say, icanhascheeseburger.com, right? That's probably not your own server. If it is, you're probably rich and shouldn't be in this room. So because of that, you know, every time you needed to do something like this, you had to set up like a PHP, and your PHP would go out and do like a wget and, you know, download it and then feed it back into your page. But this is really annoying that every single time you want to go and grab an external feed, you have to do this, you know, set up the server-side proxy. So really, I love the AJAX Feeds API because of this, I can make everything client-side. And you could argue like, well, I love PHP, but not everybody has access to PHP, right? We do have it on USC, but if you weren't a student, you'd probably have to go out and pay for a hosting provider, right? Now, if you just use client-side scripting, the cool thing about this, you can make your mashups on googlecode.com, and that's free, and that's like free bandwidth, and that's actually where most of my samples reside. So that's pretty nifty, and that's why I love it. Yeah.
This Google search, the box that we put in our own site. I mean, does it just get the results from the normal Google search and just filter out all other websites, or?
Are you talking about like with the restricted, when you run it restricted to a website?
No, the search box that we put in our website,
yeah.
Does it have a special way of accessing our...
Right, so, well, if you've ever been to google.com, you can actually do, like if you type in the search box, you can do, I always use this, site:/usc.edu, and then like you want to find like our CSCI stuff. So in google.com, this will do a search for CSCI and return results. So when it's the same thing when you use the AJAX Search API, you can say use site restriction usc.edu and have return results for this. So that's translated exactly to the JavaScript APIs. So the Google backend already takes care of stuff like that. It's already used to doing it. So basically everything in the API is a subset of stuff that Google searches already do.
When someone inside Google search API over here, Google search controlling website, do Google use that information?
Do we use your information?
Yeah.
No, we don't care. Are you saying like, are we actually going to monitor what you're searching for?
No. Yeah, that way, something like that way.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you can check like put an AJAX search control on your page and check the you know, check the net stuff that's going over the net, and we're not sending any information back to our servers right now. So besides, like, I mean, we know what you search for, but we're not logging it to stalk you or anything. We just know what you search for because you happen to make a request to our servers. But if it's a privacy concern you're worried about, I wouldn't worry that much. There are probably worse privacy concerns. So here's an example. So we have google.com, right? So here we have the search results. And then we have an example that actually has AJAX search on the page. So this has a couple of different things. There's a YouTube search. There's a map search. I don't know if that even has normal search there. But you get the idea though. So this is on somebody else's website. It's probably on a blog right here. Now for the feed, here's an example of a feed. So you guys know, hopefully, how many of you know what RSS feeds are? Oh, yay. Okay, so RSS feeds and Atom feeds is what the format most of your blogs come in when they're syndicated. They're XML so that other things can understand them easily. So this is what it looked like in Firefox. It formats it. I opened up IU6 just to look at the raw XML. So that's an example of the RSS output of Google News. Now I could just read that with the AJAX feed. And so here's an example of AJAX feed on a page. This is getting I think this is getting an iTunes feed, if you like the iTunes albums. But you can also do stuff like Flickr, Picasa. That's a very common thing to do, and there's actually slideshow controls that are specially configured for that. But something I want to talk about before I go any further is the fact that these are called the AJAX APIs. This is a little deceiving because they're not actually true AJAX in the original definition of the word. Can anyone tell me what AJAX originally referred to?
What it stands for?
Yeah.
Asynchronous JavaScript and XML.
Right, okay. So what's an example of what that does?
It dynamically goes and gives information without having to reload the page.
Beautiful. Okay. So, right. So it dynamically, so he actually described what the effect of it is, as opposed to what the code behind it is. So the code behind it is actually that you have to make something called an XML HTTP request, and the way to do this varies across browser. But you make this request, you send it to you give it a URL, You send it to the URL. You might send some data if you're doing like a post request versus a get request, right? And then you get some data back, right? And this is the thing that we were talking about that is subject to the cross-domain security policy. Now, when we think about this, clearly these APIs can't actually be using AJAX because they're running on somebody's website that's not google.com. However, they're still having the effect of AJAX in which they're going and getting results without reloading the page. And I just talked with the guy who started them, and that's the reason he called it AJAX. Is exactly what you described, is because it has the same effect. And when we talk about AJAX now, it's kind of just like this Web 2.0 word that just basically means like, you know, nice dynamic reloading, right? Now, the way this actually works is it's kind of a cool hack. You guys remember JavaScript tags, like the script tags, right? Okay, so the cool thing about JavaScript tags is that they can refer to URLs anywhere, right? So I can do script source equals whatever, http://server.com/blog.js, right? So they're not, and then every browser we find are processing this, okay? So they're not subject to this cross-domain thing, so they can get JavaScript from anywhere. So as long as we can deliver something, and then the other cool thing is that you can dynamically insert a script tag into your page. So at any point while your website is running, you can do something like document.createElement script, right? Just like you'd create an image tag, and then script.source equals HTTP blah 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 blah, and then document append child. This thing we made up here, right? Script. Yay! Okay, so that's really cool because that means at any point while our page is running, we can dynamically insert JavaScript into the page. Now, normally you think of JavaScript as code. However, JavaScript can very easily be turned into data, right? Because think about it, you can just make a JavaScript data structure, and this is often called JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which basically, like, if you use Python, it looks a lot like Python dix. It's basically just like a hash. So you can do something like, so the way actually that these would usually look is like you have, curly braces, feed, and then let's say we'll have an array. So this is our object, feed, array, let's say we'll have an entry, and then each entry will be another object, name, blah. So this is actually JavaScript object notation, right? So imagine that we have a script on a server somewhere that returns this data, and then we read it into the page. So what you could do is just give this a variable name. So it could be like my data equals all this stuff. And then once you've read it into the page, you could refer to that variable my data, and it would be in your page, right? So this means that as long as the server is willing to output JSON, you can read it into your page. And that's exactly how all of the Google AJAX APIs work. And that's actually how the Maps API works as well. The other thing, it's a little bit of a trick, is that you want to know when this stuff is actually loaded. Because if you do this document.appendChild script, your web page has to go out to the server, and it has to go and get the script file and come back. So you can't refer to that data immediately because you don't know if it's there. So the little trick we do is we usually have a callback function. So in some case, you'll specify a callback function to the end. So let's say you say and callback equals call my stuff. And so then we just surround the entire thing with call my stuff, put the data in between it. So when that JavaScript is read into the page, it actually executes this function, call my stuff, and hands the data into it. So that's actually, it's probably kind of a weird concept, but it's a really cool hack to know. And I've used it constantly since then. So that is how the AJAX APIs work. They're not true AJAX, but they do simulate the effect of AJAX, and that's what makes them cool.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read somewhere yesterday on some website that AJAX is getting obsolete because the action script introduced by Adobe is far more faster than AJAX.
Which, are you talking about like air or what?
No, action script.
Oh, action script,
Yeah.
okay.
And hence the result generated by Yahoo Maps is far more faster than Google Maps? Is it?
All right, so there's two things here, right? So when we're talking about maps, it's true that, so if you compare Flash versus JavaScript, we talk about maps. Maps have a lot of vector data in them. So vector data is stuff that's like composed of like lots of vertices and information, right?
My question is,
Yeah.
if ActionScript works more faster than AJAX, then why should we use AJAX?
Well, they're two different things, right?
Yeah.
So ActionScript is a language. JavaScript is a language. AJAX is more of a technique. And so actually, I don't know what you call it in Flash, but I've done basically the same thing in Flash as I've done in AJAX, which is go out and get an XML file. Yeah, but I believe it has the same, do you know? I think it has the same policies. So when they say that Flash is faster, they're usually, like Yahoo Maps, Flash might be faster in some respects because the drawing might be faster and the shapes might be faster. I do not think that their data transfer is faster.
Even then, you can't use ActionScript for like stuff in HTML pages. So.
Right. So the advantage of, and the reason that Google usually does JavaScript is that it's more cost compatible. ActionScript, you still have to download it, and it's proprietary. And so at any point, Adobe might change it. So yeah, so when it comes to actually issuing requests to a server and getting data back, I don't know any advantages that ActionScript has. Okay, so let's see. I'll try and skip through lots of things. All right, so there's lots of things that you can do with the AJAX feeds and search APIs. This is just a collage of them. We have maps, video, photos, iTunes, blog roll, etc. Here's a hello world. This is actually a hello world using the search control, which is a wrapper of the search class. And what this one does is that it sets up a search control, and then it adds a local search, a web search, a video search, and a blog search. It draws it on the page, and then it executes a search for Seattle Mariners. So you can see this is the results from Google Maps. This is the results from the web, from video, from blog, and then this is just a callback for calling that function when the body loads. So this is pretty simple. So you can see, like, if you're just interested in having something on your page that only searches, like, let's say you're obsessed with, what's something you're obsessed with?
Britney Spears.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Okay, fine. Let's say that we're all obsessed with Britney Spears. So you could just make a page that constantly searches every Google property for Britney Spears all the time. So every time you went to it, you would just see Britney Spears. It's pretty useful. No, there's actually a lot of people that use this, because think about it. Like, if you always constantly search like the same coding websites for tips, then it's pretty useful to just have a custom search engine or something that's using multiple site restrictions that will only search those websites. So this could be kind of useful for doing homework as well. Here's a hello world for the feed API. This is once again using the feed control as opposed to the raw feed classes. In this example, we're creating a feed control. This is very similar. We're adding a feed. This time we're adding a dig feed. You guys all know dig? Yeah. All right. We're adding a TechCrunch feed, which is like the startups blog. I got TechCrunch once. It's pretty sweet. And then we're just drawing it the same thing, right? So then we just get the results. It's all nicely formatted. So this is very much designed for people that like the way it looks already. You can actually customize it via CSS if you want, but you can't do terribly much else. So that's why we also offer just the raw feed class and searcher class. So then you can pretty much do anything. So you can see we have just the raw layers. So these are the searchers, the feed, and then we have these controls on top. And then we even have stuff that they've written on top of the controls, which are even more customized. So the map control, we did see the video bar. And then like with the feed control, the slideshow, because a lot of people just want to show a slideshow of their pictures. And then the iTunes, because I guess people like looking at iTunes stuff because everybody likes Apple. And then, so this is cool. So I talked about this already. This is basically how it works, right? So when you do like feed.load or search.execute, we make the URL up, and then we inject the script tag. So that's exactly what I was talking about here. And then we load the data back in, and we call the user's callback function with that data. And so it comes back to it. It's asynchronous. And then Usually it's JSON results, and so this is what I was talking about here. JSON is just the way JavaScript represents objects. And then we include all the necessary information. For the feed API, we do also offer the XML result, which I believe is just encapsulated inside a JavaScript object in order to get it over to us. And the reason we do that is because RSS and Atom feeds can kind of vary and have different things in them. So some RSS feeds have extensions. So GRSS are RSS feeds that have geographical information in them. So in order to actually get at those, since they're kind of custom extensions, you have to use the XML and parse those out. But that's really cool because that means XML access, any feed, I get it all. So I can just play to my heart's content. Here's an example that our colleague wrote. It was just a showcase of Google Tech Talks. So the cool thing is all he really had to worry about here was the CSS to make it pretty, but all the figuring out how to get the feeds and parse them was all done by the APIs. This is some medical example. If you really want to show skin cancer, yeah, we got all kinds of partners. Some more stuff. Can't even read that. It's German. I'm supposed to be learning German now. And Style Hive. It's for girls. All right. So there's more stuff there. So should I go into the workshop now?
Sure.
All right, cool. So ready? Wait. This is gonna go rapid fire. Pretty. Yay! So the point of a couple of the last slides there is that there are some wizards. So if you're like really super lazy and you don't even want to write any code, we do have a map search wizard. It just creates a map that searches around a location, and there's also a video search wizard. And that just searches for a couple like tags and stuff. There's all different levels of customization here, basically, because we try to appeal like the noobs to the people who like really want to customize. So that's the basics of the APIs. We're gonna try and go kind of fast so that Jason can get to open the social. But I have a couple things for you guys to try out so you can get used to the code. And yeah, so. Go to the googleworkshops.googlemashups.com page. And if you go down to the bottom to the AJAX APIs code lab, this is googleworkshops.googlemashups.com. Should memorize this URL.
It's a terrible URL.
It's not bad. Hey, why is this? Okay. Why did it ask me to open that?
It's the MIME type problem.
Wait, why did it open on TJON? Okay. Weird.
Because I downloaded.
All right, interesting. Okay. Was that because I didn't do HTML?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, so if you get this open, this is actually using the feed API. Just like we like to be meta about all of our workshops. And yesterday we used maps, on Monday we used gadgets. So this one is using the feed API to display what the workshop tasks are. So since I like feed API the best, there's like 5 different tasks here, but we probably won't get to all of them. And then AJAX search, there's 3 different tasks. So the point is just to use the documentation. So under each of these, there's a documentation hint. And usually they start with a hello world. Sometimes they don't. So you may want to start with that one because that starts with a hello world. And so just try it out and raise your hand if you have questions, just like always. So I would just start, you can just develop locally on your hard drive. Just open up TextPad. So you can just go and you might want to start by taking this the hello world for each of the APIs and loading it into TextPad. So let's go here. All right, my thingy.html, and then let's load that in. All right, see? So cool. So yeah, I would recommend starting with the hello world and then modifying it from there in order to do the various tasks. Questions? So one thing to think about as you're using these things, these exercises just give you the basic idea of what's possible. This is just my personal website, and I wanted to do minimal effort to have a website that would be hopefully dynamically updated by not too much effort of my own. Because you know the usual problem about websites is that you make them and then you never ever update them. But the cool thing is that there's probably stuff you do update on the web somewhere, right? So you have various services you're signed up for. So the idea of this thing is that this uses entirely the AJAX feeds in order to pull stuff dynamically from the various places where I do update stuff. So let's see. So these are my Flickr pictures. So this is just loading in a Flickr feed. And so this I luckily updated like last week. This is my Pandora radio. So Pandora is a online streaming radio, and it happens to publish RSS feeds of the radio stations that I listen to. This is pretty cool, so you can see what the recent stations I listen to. These are my YouTube maps. It's actually a good song. These are my videos from YouTube. So this is actually two different things. One of them is a playlist I created, and one of them is actually the videos I've uploaded. So these are all the videos I've uploaded. This is a playlist I created, which is just videos that I happen to be in. So luckily this gets updated sometimes, like when we play trampling dodgeball. And then this is actually using the feed control in the tabbed draw mode. And so here I have the Maps API blog, which I actually do update like every 3 days. And then I have blogs that I pretty much abandoned. But that's why they're the second and third tabs. So that's just one example of like the kind of stuff you can do with the AJAX Feeds API really quickly. So I basically just I have two functions. I have a create link bar and a create image bar. And so those are just used for those two things. So that's an example. We're going to have to finish up the AJAX part of the workshop pretty soon so we can get started with OrCut. Do you guys have any remaining questions about it?